Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be showing you how I made this bustier dress with a double flare at the hem. Keep on watching and let's get started. If you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please hit the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so you get notified anytime I upload a new video. Now let's jump right into the tutorial. Shoulder to the chest line is 8 inches, to the bust line is 10 inches, to the under bust is 13 inches, to the waistline is 18 inches, to the hip line is 26 inches, and to the full length for now is 32 inches. The full length on this pattern is not the actual full length of the dress because we are going to attach a double flare to the hem. This full length I marked on this paper is from the shoulder to where I want the flare to start from. I'll go in with the shoulder measurements divided by 2 plus 0.5 inch for seam allowance, and I'll mark it on the shoulder line. I'll mark it on the shoulder line and on the chest line, and I'll connect with a straight line. Next, I'll mark the neck width and the neck depth. I'll be using a neck depth of 3 inches and a neck width of 3 inches, and I'll connect with a curve. I'll come down by 1.5 inches for the shoulder slant, and I'll connect with a straight line into the neck width. Now I'll go in with the bust measurements divided by 4. I'll mark it on the chest line. I'll go up from the chest line by 3 inches, and from that 3 inches mark I'll come in by 0.75. I'll connect those 3 points together to form the armhole. On the waistline, I'll go in with the waist measurements divided by 4, and I'll add 2 inches allowance for that. On the hip line, I'll mark the hip measurements divided by 4, and at the full length line, I'll deduct 1 inch from what I marked on the hip line, and that is the measurement I'll put at the full length. I am connecting all those points together with my curve now. On the waistline, I'll go in with the nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2. Also, I'll mark it on the bust line, and at the hip line, I'll go up by 2 inches, and that is where I'll mark the nipple to nipple measurements, and I'll connect those 3 points with a ruler. I added 2 inches allowance for that, so I'll come out by 1 inch on both sides on the waistline, and I'll connect like so to the bust point and the hip line. On the under bust line, I'll mark the round under bust measurements divided by 4. I'll measure the space I have left from where I marked, and I'll divide it on both sides of the dart leg on the under bust line. And I'll connect with a curve to the bust point and a straight line to the waistline. Now I am going to separate the upper bodice from the lower bodice. I'm going to cut from the waistline so that we can have a waist joining. The next thing is to determine the neckline for this bustier dress. From the chest line, I'm going to come down by 0.75, and I'll place my curve so that it touches the 0.75 and it's also touching the armhole. And I'm just going to mark like you see me doing. The 0.75 I used here is not constant. Depending on how open you want the neckline to be, you can come down by 1 inch, 1.5 inches or 2 inches. So now I'm just going to extend the nipple to nipple measurement up onto the neckline area, and I'm going to come out by 0.75 on the side facing the armhole and 0.5 on the side facing the center front, and I'm going to connect with a straight line to the bust point. I am marking the bust dart now, which is at 2 inches. So from the bust line, come down by 2 inches and connect with a straight line to the bust point. The difference between the front and the back half length is 2 inches, and that is what I am taking in as the bust dart. That is all for the front pattern. I am cutting it out now. In case you want to add a yoke to this dress, you can cut out the rest of the pattern at the upper part. That will serve as the yoke for the dress. Shoulder to the chest line is 8 inches, to the waistline is 16 inches, to the hip line is 25 inches, and to the full length is 30 inches. I have a space of 1.5 inches by the side of the paper, and that is for my zip allowance. The first thing I'm going to do now is to alter the zip allowance. We are going to tighten the center back. So on the waistline, I went in by 0.75, and I'm just going to connect with a straight line to the top and bottom like so. Now I am just going to remark the 1.5 inches for zip allowance. I'll mark the shoulder measurements divided by 2 plus 0.5 inch for seam allowance. I'll mark it on the shoulder line and also on the chest line, and I'll connect with a straight line. I'll mark a neck depth of 1 inch and a neck width of 3 inches, and I'll connect with a curve. I'll come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slant, and I'll connect it into the neck width. Next, I'll go in with the bust measurements divided by 4. I'll mark it on the chest line. And from the shoulder slant, I'll divide what I have left into 2 and get the midpoint. And at the midpoint, I'll go in by 0.5, and I'll connect those 3 points together to form the armhole. On the waistline, I'll go in with the waist measurements divided by 4, and I'll add 1 inch allowance for that. On the hip line, I'll mark the hip measurements divided by 4, and at the full length, I'm going to deduct 1 inch from what I marked on the hip line, and that is what I'm going to put at the full length. Now I am connecting all those points together with my curve. On the waistline, I'll go in with the nipple to nipple measurement. I'm going to mark it on the chest line, but I'll come down by 1 inch from the chest line. And at the hip line, I'm going to go up by 2 inches. That is where I'm going to mark the nipple to nipple measurement. And I'll connect those 3 points together with a straight line. I'll come out by ½ inch on both sides of the dart leg on the waistline, and I'll connect to the top and bottom like so. Here I am extending the line on the waistline to the zip allowance, and I'm just going to cut from the waistline to separate the upper bodice from the lower bodice. I am extending the chest line to the zip allowance here, and I'm just going to extend the nipple to nipple measurement up onto the chest line, and I'm going to tighten it by 0.25 on both sides of the dart leg, and I'm just going to connect with a straight line like you see me doing. For the back neckline, I'm going to come down by 1 inch from the chest line, and I'll connect with a straight line to meet the armhole. That is all on the back pattern. I'm cutting it out now. Like I explained for the front pattern, if you want a yoke for your dress, you're just going to cut out the rest of the pattern at the top. So you're just going to cut out like you see me doing and keep it aside for your yoke. Here I am going to close my dart and hold it down with a masking tape. I don't want a dart at the back, so the back is just going to be a single piece. Please label your pattern in a way that you are going to understand it. I'm labeling mine the center back, the side back, and I'm pointing an arrow to the top. These are my upper bodies for the front and the back. I won't be making use of the yoke for this tutorial, but I've explained how you are going to go about it if you want to make use of the yoke. This is for the lower bodies for both the front and the back. You can see that everything matches up perfectly. I'm just going to go ahead now and transfer to fabric. I have transferred the upper bodice to fabric now, and I've added my allowance. I added ½ inch allowance all around the pattern to the top and bottom, but for the side joining I added 1.5 inches, and I've also cut out my lining. Don't forget to add all the necessary allowance to your pattern. For the lower bodice, I closed the dart on the skirt part. I don't want the dart on the skirt part, so I closed it, and I've added my allowances, and I've also cut out the lining. So add the necessary allowance to the side, top and bottom. I am going to pad the bust area for this dress, so I'm going to set aside the fabric and the lining and bring in the two front pieces. To cut out the pattern for the bust padding, you're just going to leave a space at the top because you don't want the padding to get to the top of the dress. From the neckline, I came down by 0.75 and I'm just going to mark it like so and cut out the part I don't want. I have cut out the part I don't want, and now from the under bust, I'm just going to cut it. So the padding will rest on the under bust. For the other part, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come down by 0.75 and connect it like so. You're just going to leave a space at the top. You don't want your padding to get to the top and also to the side. So I'm just going to curve it in like you see me doing. So these are my two pieces for the padding. I'm going to be using a non-woven fusible interfacing, popularly called wadding. I have cut out the wadding here, and this is what we have. You're going to cut the center part on fold and the other two pieces like this. I'll go ahead now and iron it on the front bodice. I added a soft interfacing to the main fabric before ironing the wadding to it, so you can go ahead and do the same thing. And I'm just going to place each of the pieces like so and go ahead and stitch with 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm going to do the same thing to the lining also. I did not add any interfacing to my lining, so I'm just going to place it on each other like this, the side pieces to the center front, and I'm just going to go ahead and stitch with 1/2 inch seam allowance. These are my two back pieces. I added interfacing to the main fabric, a soft interfacing, and this is what we have. I am placing the lining on the fabric now, right side facing each other, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch the neck and the zip area. This is after I was done joining the front pieces, and this is what I have. So now I'm just going to place the lining on it, right side facing each other, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch the neckline with 1/2 inch. So go ahead and stitch the neckline with 1/2 inch, and I'll bring it back. This is what I have for the back pieces after I was done turning it with the lining. I'm just going to bring the lower part now. I have already attached the lining to the lower part. So I'm just going to go ahead now and join it on the waistline with 1/2 inch. I'm going to join it with 1/2 inch and I'll bring it back. This is after attaching the lining to the upper bodice. I went ahead to top stitch on the lining. So I'm just going to join it to the lower bodice now. I'm just going to join on the waistline with 1/2 inch seam allowance. So go ahead and do that. I am done joining the back pieces together now, and I'm just going to go ahead now and attach the zip. I am done fixing the zip here, and this is what we have. So now I am going to set this aside and bring in the front pieces. This is after I was done with the front also. I'm going to place it on each other, and I'm just going to go ahead and stitch the sides together. I have already marked out the allowance I'm going to stitch, so just go ahead and do yours too and stitch the sides together. This is after I was done joining the sides together, and this is what we have. I went ahead to overlock the inner seams and I ironed it properly. For the lower part, you are going to cut out your desired flare length to complete the full length of the dress. I have cut out my flare already. I cut out a double flare and I attached it together. So I'm just going to cut out the flare you want. I used the 720-degree flare here, and this is what we have. For the flare at the top, I made pleats around the entire flare just to give it a little bit of fullness. I am going to place the flare on the dress, right side facing each other, and stitch it round with 1/2 inch seam allowance, and that will be all on this dress. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel. Please turn on your notification bell so you get notified anytime I upload a new video. Please follow me on Instagram at stitchedbyst, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.